Hi, um, this is my first podfic, so bear with me. My mic isn't too great, um, but let's get into it. This will be chapter one of Wake Up and Smell the Coffee by Bergen on AO3. Chapter Chapter 1, Mr. and Mrs. Portray. Mondays always sucked, but this particular Monday really took the cake. Nothing in Kathy's apartment felt like it normally did. Her shoes weren't by the door when Peter came in. Her keys weren't in the tiny basket on the side table. When she stepped into the living room, Kathy's laptop that she used to do the admin for her knitting club was just sitting on the kitchen table, abandoned. "You're a very difficult person to contact, Spider-Man." Peter turned, slowly, very slowly. And there was Nick Fury, sitting in Kathy's rocking chair by the window. He looked distinctly out of place, surrounded by the tiny figures that Kathy had been hoarding for years and that covered every surface of the house. Peter dropped his backpack to the floor. His heart was beating like crazy, but he wasn't about to let it show. "Where is Kathy? Um, Miss Perconi." "Sweet old lady. She's at the police station. Her son was just arrested. Police discovered a large amount of drugs in his house." Peter remained quiet. Clearly, Fury was here with a purpose, and Peter wasn't about to give anything away until he knew how much exactly the man knew and what he wanted. "You know who I am?" Fury asked. Peter merely gave a curt nod. "Good. I'm sure you've figured out by now that we know about your alter ego. In fact, we've been following you closely for a while now. That's how NYPD busted Milan Po- Pokorny. After we found out After we found out you were his little drug mule, we passed that info on to them. We'll just keep that bit of information from Miss Percorny, shall we?" Peter swallowed. Kathy was the closest thing he had to a parent right now. She had taken care of him for almost 3 years now, even though she was retired and had to count every penny. She would absolutely kill him if she knew he had been dealing drugs for her son for years, or she would get a heart attack and die. Either way, not something Peter wanted to deal with. So yes, he'd rather keep all that from her. But in his experience, when someone did him a favor, they usually wanted something in return. "We also managed to keep your name from any of their evidence and records, so all your lovely coworkers are busted, but you're in the clear," Fury continued. "In exchange for what?" Fury's lips quirked into a smirk. "I see you know how the world works. Good. Sit." Peter did. "I'm sure you heard about our incident in Lagos." Peter frowned at the subject. How is that related to Milan's dumb drug serve that he ran from his garage? "Yeah, you guys really fucked up." "Thank you for that analysis," Fury bit out, unable to hide the frustration from his voice. "It didn't exactly sway public opinion in our favor. There's a lot of pressure on me from high up, and I mean high up, way in the fucking clouds, to sign the whole Avengers initiative over to someone else's authority. We need to get people off our back. That's where you come in." "Why?" "Because Spider-Man's reputation is spotless. You're a little Mother Teresa in the public eye. People wet their pants talking about how great you are. Old people think you're adorable. Young people think you're cool." Fury smirked. "The irony, right? If only they knew their precious Spider-Man was a drug runner by day." "I just pass a little weed around," Peter said. "That shit's not hurting anyone." He knew his work was technically illegal, but all his efforts to save victims from all kinds of crime during the day made up for that, right? Right? "Whatever, kid, I couldn't care less about your little side projects, apart from the fact that it's giving me some leverage. Want to go to jail for drug dealing or want to cooperate? Just tell me what you want." For you to come, for you to become part of the team, of course. Follow our instruction to the letter, confirm to the press how frickin' great the Avengers are. The whole caboodle. "Fine." Peter said indifferently. You won't tell Kathy, though, right? Ah, Miss Pocorni, you won't be surprised to learn she has been deemed an unfit guardian. Sweet old lady, but old age is catching up with her and her memory is slipping. What? No, it isn't, Peter protests, because Kathy was probably about the smartest, wittiest person he knew. If she were here, she sure as hell would give Nick Fury a piece of her mind that he would remember for a long time. Kid, I don't give a crap about the facts. The facts are what I make them, you understand? And right now, the fact, as I made it, is that CPS decided you are in an urgent care, you are in an urgent need of a proper guardian, and are going to be moved there immediately. You can't just do that. Actually, you'll find I can. Peter crossed his arm. Who's going to be my guardian? You? Fury turned a page in his file. No, Mr. and Mrs. Portray. Lovely couple, suburban. She's a lawyer, he's a teacher, they own a dog. Also, they don't actually exist. In reality, if you will, of course, be moving into the compound for the time being. And if everything plays out well, and I get the government off my back, I can always reverse the whole thing and you move back here. See? I'm perfectly reasonable. Peter was sure he must have heard a few things wrong. You you want me to live with the Avengers? How else do you imagine this would play out? I give you a little pager so we can beep you if a fight breaks out in the city. I got that wrong. I give you little pagers so we can beep you if a fight breaks out in the city. The panic Peter had been trying to suppress was now slowly clawing its way to the surface. Look, I'll be on your dumb Avengers team if I need to, but don't make me move, please. I'm not here for a negotiation, Mr. Parker. I'm here to tell you what's going on and how it's going to happen. Your only job is to nod and smile and say thank you, Mr. Fury, for not throwing my ass in jail. But Miss Perconi, I always help her around the house. Like, I cook her dinner and all that. Then for all I care, drop by every evening and cook her dinner and all that. Or I'll tell her to move to an elderly home. Wait, so I'm not going to be, like, locked in the compound? Peter clarified. And I can still visit Kathy? Kid, I don't give a shit what you do in your spare time, as long as you keep up Spider-Man's reputation. And I can stay in the same school? I don't see a point in you moving schools just for a few months. If you really want to stay at that shithole you're attending, Fury said, curling up his lips as he glanced down at the file in his lap. I see your school ranks very high in stabbing incidents. I like it there, Peter defensively said, which was nowhere near the truth. But he also didn't want to go through the whole hazing process of going to a new school. Other kids tended to dislike him, and he had finally won enough fights with his current classmates for them to leave him the hell alone. He didn't want to start from zero. You can go to any school you want. I don't care. Okay, fine. So when do I move? Right now. Start packing. You got 10 minutes. Right. But can I wait for Kathy to come home so I can say goodbye or something? Why? You're planning to visit, right? But 9 minutes and a half. You're such an asshole, Peter exploded. Yeah, I am. Get used to it. Peter was actually Peter actually was used to this. Getting uprooted and moving from home to home had been pretty much his life between the ages of 9 and 12. It was usually just as sudden as this, within minutes' notice. Or sometimes a social worker would simply pick him up after school with his bags already packed and drive him to a new address because Mr. Vanderbilt had a nervous breakdown this afternoon, or some shit. And then at 12 years old, he had run away from home, ended up on Kathy's doorstep, and had somehow impressed her enough that she called CPS and offered to foster him. She had given him some stability for the first time in a long time. Really, it was a miracle that Peter had stayed there for a whole 3 years. It had, it had been too good to last. Bean never thought it would end like this. Kathy's deadbeat son, Milan, had roped him into working as a drug runner over a year ago. How long had S.H.I.E.L.D. been on this case? Waiting for a formal invitation or something? Fury asked, leaning down to glance at him through the open window. Peter blinked, shaken from his thoughts. He glanced up at the compound that was looming over him, then grabbed his large backpack and stepped out of the car. Peter blinked. Oh. Wait, shit. Tony was the only one waiting in the lobby when they entered. He was barefoot, wearing stained jeans and a simple shirt. For a billionaire, he sure dressed sloppily. Had the circumstances been different, Peter might have been excited to meet the man. As it was, he felt mostly annoyed. Mostly annoyed. Mr. Parker, Stark said stiffly. Mr. Stark? Peter greeted back in a neutral voice. He wasn't going to be an asshole until he knew whether Stark was going to be an asshole. We're a little early, Fury said. No matter, we've prepared a bedroom for him already. That's good to hear. Thank you. Mr. Stark seemed to be struggling for words for a moment. Yes, well, he finally said, you're in charge. The underlying message was clear. I didn't agree to this. Well, Peter sure as hell didn't agree to this either. Stark now turned more fully to Peter, glancing at Peter's clothes and at his ratty sneakers, and finally at the large backpack. Where's the rest of your stuff? We didn't all grow up billionaires, Peter said coolly. Kathy had already been struggling to make ends meet before Peter moved in. That was the whole reason why Peter had started working for Milan's drug service in the first place. Fine. Unzip, please, and empty your pockets. No, Peter said. Why should I? Because no one is bringing drugs into this compound. Right, or maybe you're just looking for a cheap way to get the good stuff. Tony Stark's nostrils flared with irritation. Excuse me? I know your reputation, Peter said. If you want to shoot up, you can just tell me, man. I can get you whatever you want. You don't have to frisk me for it. I never actually smoked grass myself anyways. Like hell I believe that. Unzip the bag, Parker, Fury said with an eye roll. Fine, Peter huffed, unzipping his bag and throwing it at Stark. Stark scrunched up his nose as he rummaged through Peter's socks. Can't believe this degenerate is supposed to improve our reputation, he muttered. I don't know what you're talking about, Peter said with a coy smile. I'm extremely likable. Listen, kid, I don't care if you're only 14, 15, whatever. None of us here are your babysitters. So you'd better be mature enough to clean up after yourself because none of us are going to do it. Am I clear? Yeah, Peter said, because frankly, he wouldn't want it any other way. The last thing he wanted was a bunch of high-strung adults telling him when to do his homework. Same goes when you join us on a mission. Don't even think about stepping out of line. Got it? Aye, aye, sir. Peter replied with as much sarcasm as he could muster. The hell was this dude's problem? Stark zipped the bag up and tossed it back at him. Fury took out the file again, holding it out to Peter. Mr. and Mrs. Portray. Better read up about them in case the cover story ever comes up. Your school will be informed of the change in guardians, and you gotta stick to the same story with anyone else too. I'm supposed to tell Kathy I moved in with some couple who don't actually exist. Do you care about this lady? Yes. Then protect her by not getting her involved. The less she knows, the better. Fury pushed the file into his hands. Mr. and Mrs. Portray. They're real fascinating people. Feel free to make up your own crap about them too, as long as you don't lose track of your own story. Don't worry, I'm a real good liar. Not surprised. Stark pointed to a door. Living room and kitchen are that way. I'll have a little chat with Fury. Cheers, Peter said, hoisting up his bag. Oh, and FYI, if I did have drugs on me, I'd be hiding them in my underwear like any sane person would do. He left. The living room was a wide space with a high ceiling and lots of windows. There was a large open kitchen with a bar to the right. Fortunately, it wasn't empty. A man who Peter recognized immediately was sat at the table reading a newspaper. War Machine, just casually sipping coffee as he read the business section. Peter approached the table, dumping his bag to the floor. War Machine glanced up, his eyes widening a fraction when he saw Peter. He immediately folded the paper away. Ah, hey, Peter. He sounded surprisingly friendly. Nice to meet you. I'm James Rhodes, but everyone calls me Rhodey. I hope Fury didn't scare you too much. What's that supposed to mean? Peter grumbled. Barges into my house, tells me to move here or else. Pretty much blackmailed me. Rhodey winced, a slight look of disapproval flashing across his face. Yes, well, he has his methods, and it seems you weren't exactly living in a good place down there. Oh, so it's in my best interest, is it? Peter scathed. I was living in a perfectly good place. There was nothing wrong with Miss Porconi. He slapped the file down on the table and sat down to read about stupid Mr. and Mrs. Petray. Have you had dinner? Reddy asked. Yeah, Nick Fury and I stopped at this lovely bistro on the way here. Peter mocked. Brody was taking his tantrum remarkably calmly. Would you like some mac and cheese? Peter picked up the papers in the file. He should probably dial it back if he wanted to get food. Yeah, thanks. Rhodey nodded and got up. The leftover mac and cheese Rhodey heated up was admittedly pretty good. Peter was used to cooking dinner for himself and Kathy. He wondered what she was eating right now, and felt a pang of guilt. Her son had been arrested, and now Peter had left her. He should drop by first thing tomorrow and make sure she was okay. Rhodey didn't bother him any further. He just focused his attention back on the newspaper while Peter ate. A prickling feeling at the back of his neck alerted him to the fact that a new person had entered the room. Natasha Romanoff merely gave Peter a glance as she stepped past the table. Huh, she said. You know, right up until this moment, I still thought Fury might have been kidding. Not in front of the kid, Nat, Rhodey warned in a low voice. Oh, yes, please, Peter said, around a mouthful of macaroni. Don't fight in front of me. I have a very delicate soul. Natasha smirked at that, swinging the fridge door open. It'll only be for a few weeks, Rhodey reasoned. Couple months, tops. Can do a lot of damage in a couple months, Natasha said, taking a beer bottle and cracking it open against the kitchen counter. Nah, didn't we agree not to? Natasha rolled her eyes. Please. Hey kid, any of your foster parents alcoholics? She asked, turning to Peter. No, most of them were decent, Peter said. Just controlling and high strung, all that. See, Natasha told Rhodey, and she took a long swig. So we're ignoring everything Steve talked about this morning? Rhodey asked, exasperated. Since Steve seems to have the illusion that we can turn this place into some kid-friendly zone, don't put much stock in his ideas. Hey, couldn't you have sussed all this out before I got here? Peter asked. We didn't exactly get much notice, Natasha tersely said. You guys know I work as a drug runner, right? Peter asked. Just saying, you don't need to get all prissy about a little beer. Natasha lifted her bottle. This kid makes a lot more sense than Cap did. Even upside down, his bedroom wasn't any less intimidating. Peter glanced around from his relatively safe spot on the ceiling. He had escaped the living area after his dinner to avoid running into any more angry, annoyed, and frustrated Avengers. When he had first stepped foot into his bedroom, he had almost stepped back out again, because there was no way that the five-star luxury royalty grand Ritz suite on the other side was meant for him. Until some robot lady voice had piped up from the ceiling, scaring the daylight out of him, and assured him that this was indeed his bedroom. The first thing he had tried to do was take a shower to drown his thoughts, but the shower had strange buttons that lit up, and Peter couldn't get it to work, so he had taken refuge on the ceiling, because he didn't want to touch all that expensive furniture. And now here he was, looking down at the Persian rug, the ornate bed frame, and the ceiling high wardrobes. What was he even supposed to put in those wardrobes? He owned exactly 4 pairs of pants. His thoughts drifted back to Kathy. Peter was used to stuff like this. He was adaptable. He'd make it work. But Kathy had lost 2 people in a day. Her son, who was an asshole but did always give her money, and Peter, who always helped around the house. Would she get by without both those things? He really wanted to call her and see if she was all right, but Fury had confiscated his phone and given him a new one. Peter wasn't about to use that one, because S.H.I.E.L.D. was probably listening in to every conversation he had. He would just visit her first thing tomorrow. Miss Pepper Potts is requesting access to your bedroom. That same cool female voice suddenly sounded, startling Peter so much that he lost his grip and fell down from the ceiling with a yelp. Jeez, freaking hell, lady. Can you at least drop the volume to 50% or something? Done, the voice said, at a significantly lower volume this time. Pepper Potts. Yeah. Peter had heard of her, seen her too, at, at press conferences on TV, snapping at journalists and generally ordering people around. Wasn't sure if he wanted to talk to her right now. What shall I tell Miss Potts? The voice gently prompted. Uh, yeah, okay, she can come in, Peter muttered, stepping back to sit on the edge of the bed. It was strange that after everything, this was the first moment he was nervous. Only a second later, the door slipped open and Pepper stepped inside. She didn't look anything like the CEO Peter had seen at the press conferences. She was wearing sweatpants and a soft sweater, and she smiled when she saw him. Hi, Peter, she said. She had a pleasant voice when she wasn't yelling. I won't take up much of your time. Today was a crazy day, and you have every right to lock yourself in your room. Peter didn't respond. He just pulled his legs up, wrapping his arms around them as he stared back at her. I'm sure you've noticed that there's been some tension among the rest of the team about your presence, and I want to make sure you know it's not about you personally, but about Fury's sudden decision to move a teenager into the compound. Really, so it wasn't about me when Tony Stark Really, so it wasn't about me when Tony Stark searched my bag for drugs? Fine, maybe, she conceded. Maybe that's a factor too. There's plenty of reasons why this situation is complicated. It's why there's tension in the first place. And Tony tends to blow things out of proportion. Wasn't that the truth? Can I ask you something? Peter ventured. She pulled out his desk chair and sat down so that they were at the same eye level. Anything. I tried to take a shower before, but I don't understand how the thing works. She smiled at my desk here is so fucking loud. She smiled as if she thought that was the cutest thing she had ever heard, which was a little annoying. I can show you, but you can always ask Friday about any questions you have. Friday. Would that be the magical ceiling voice? Her smile grew. That's the one. Peter scrunched up his nose. She watches me shower? She doesn't watch, she's an AI. She just knows. So there's no cameras in here or anything. She shook her head. There's no cameras in any of the bedrooms or bathrooms. You sure Stark didn't install a few, anticipating my arrival? You seem to think I was planning to OD in the bathtub. Pepper stared at him, then gave a tiny shake of her head. Are you going to be okay? What? None of us are technically your guardians, so you're on your own. I can take care of myself, Peter tersely informed. And he could. It wasn't as if Kathy had ever really taken care of him. They always took care of each other. That was the whole point. Pepper tapped her long fingernails against the armrests. What else? What else? We don't have housekeeping for security reasons, so we all keep our own rooms clean. We do our own laundry too. There's a laundry room down the hall. Have you ever done laundry? Peter always took care of laundry. Yeah. We always eat together around 7, but feel free to have dinner on your own if you prefer. Can you cook? Peter always cooked. Yeah. You can use anything you find in the kitchen unless it's labeled. Peter nodded again. He kind of wanted Pepper to leave, now, so he could hide under the blanket and watch a movie or something. Scooted backwards on the bed until he could lean against the headboard. Pepper took the hint, pushing herself to her feet. Let me know if you need me for anything, all right? Yeah, okay, Peter said. You probably wouldn't, though. He woke up the next morning feeling remarkably well rested, probably thanks to the luxury mattress and the ridiculously fluffy blankets. He took a shower, with a little help from Friday, and sneaked down to the kitchen as soon as Friday informed him that there was no one else there. Pepper had said that he was free to use anything from the kitchen, but Peter still made sure no one was watching him before he snatched some breakfast cereals from a shelf. His school gave out free lunches, but that was never enough to sustain Peter's fast metabolism, so he needed to bring some extra food. He wasn't sure how, though. There is Tupperware in the cupboard next to the refrigerator, Friday informed him when he asked her. Can I take that with me? Yes, Friday said. Although I should tell you that I have been programmed to inform Tony Stark if you take anything from the compound that doesn't belong to you personally. Typical. Cool, in that case, I'll also take. How much is this tiny clock worth? It is valued at approximately $800. That seemed enough to make Stark throw another hissy fit. Peter actually got a chauffeur in a fancy car driving him to school. And his name, get this, was Happy. Ready for school? The man asked, poking at the display. Peter shook his head. Not to school. You can drive me to Kathy Picorni's house. Happy frowned at him. What? Fury said I could visit her whenever I wanted, and I'll walk from there. Happy looked skeptical. Will you? Really? Fury said he doesn't even care whether I skip. Fury says a lot of things, Happy snapped, looking frustrated. But some of us are trying to make sure we don't completely screw up a teenager's childhood. Peter snorted as he put on his seatbelt. That's cute. Do you have her address? Friday? Happy asked with a long-suffering sigh. A map immediately popped up on the display. Estimated time of arrival, 8:12. Friday reported. Geez, Peter said. That lady is everywhere, isn't she? Happy started the car. I am picking you up after school, though. That's not negotiable. Tony needs to talk to you. It's about the press conference tomorrow, where Spider-Man is supposed to make an appearance. Fine, Peter bit out. At least park around the corner, okay? I don't need my classmates seeing me get into a fancy car with an old man. They'll talk. I'm not old. Kathy was surprised when Peter turned up on her doorstep. She immediately grabbed his arm, pulling him inside. Goodness, Peter, I tried to call you last night. Peter nodded, taking off his jacket and throwing it across the banister like he always did. The CPS guy took my phone. He gave me a new one, but I don't want to use it because I don't trust them. Hmm, Kathy said, pursing her lips. I'll see if I can get you a phone. No, that's okay, Peter said quickly, because the idea that Kathy would have to scrape together money to buy him a phone made him feel guilty. I'll see if I can get another one myself. That man from CPS was utterly rude, Kathy complained as she led him into the living room. If I were his mother, I'd certainly give him a slap over the head. Peter grinned at the mental image of Kathy chasing Fury around with a rolled up newspaper. Damn it! With a rolled up newspaper. I'm sure you would. Kathy sank down in her usual chair by the window with a sigh. What a mess! What a mess! Peter sat on the edge of a chair, glancing at the laptop on the side table next to Kathy. He just saw endless rows of numbers and Hungarian words. Kathy was pretty good with computers for an old woman. My knitting club is making blankets for orphans in Romania, Kathy explained as she popped her feet off. I'm just keeping track of the finances. Peter smiled. Sometimes Kathy was about the scariest person he knew, especially when she chased unwanted guests out of her house by hitting them over the head. And then other times she was just a sweet old lady in a flowery dress talking about her knitting club. Did you talk to Milan? Peter asked, testing the waters. Free had promised not to tell Kathy about Peter's involvement, but Milan could have said something about him, of course, and then Kathy might wonder why Peter hadn't been arrested, and Peter wasn't sure how he would explain that. So far for Fury's well thought out cover story. So much for Fury's well thought out cover story. Kathy. Thankfully, Kathy simply dismissed his question with a curt, let's not discuss him. You don't have to worry, Peter assured her. I'll come by as often as I can, all right? Get your groceries, do the dishes, whatever. Leave it to me. It would be wonderful if you could change the bed for me, Kathy admitted. Done, Peter said. I'll go make us some tea then. Peter changed the sheets and turned on the washing machine, and he quickly vacuumed while he was at it. Didn't do anything to eliminate his feelings of guilt. He felt like he was abandoning Kathy, and speaking as someone who knew how it felt to be abandoned, that sucked. Kathy had tea ready for him when he was done, and inevitably asked him about Mr. and Mrs. Portray. The house is nice, Peter said. They have a dog, and they have a turtle, too. You know how much I like turtles, right? Yes, yes, that's nice, she said. What's his name? What's his name? Who? The turtle. What's his name? Shel Silverstein, with a double L, because, you know. She chuckled softly. That's amusing. They must be good people, then, if they have a sense of humor. Yeah, they are. They're good people. Don't worry about me. When he came home from school, Rhodey was sitting at the dinner table. Hey, kid, he said when he spotted Peter. I made tea. Have a seat. Think I was supposed to go to Tony Stark's office or something. In a minute, Rhodey said. Have a drink first. Unwind a little. How was your day? Peter shrugged. He took off his backpack and dug through it for a moment. taking out a tiny clock and placing it back on the kitchen counter. Just a little social experiment, he said when he saw Rhodey's raised eyebrows. He dropped his backpack to the floor and sat down at the table. Rhodey poured him a cup of tea. Happy tells me you visited Kathy before school. Yeah. Do you miss her? Peter shrugged. He wouldn't really miss Kathy as long as he went by every day. Fury has a big meeting with Thaddeus Ross in about 6 weeks, Rhodey said. There have been rumors that Ross wants to establish a new deal when it comes to the Avengers, something involving the UN. That is Fury's main concern. If we can change Ross's mind before then, we're all in the clear. And then I'm sure you can go back to live with Kathy. Peter didn't respond. He didn't like getting his hopes up about these things. Preferred to just not think about it. Thanks for the tea, he murmured, picking up his cup. I think I'll just go see what Stark wants. He made his way downstairs, following Friday's directions. He'd expected to be led to some boring office, but instead he ended up in a large workshop with high ceilings, large computer screens, a lot of complicated-looking machines, and scientific instruments that made Peter's hands itch. Stark was standing next to one of the tables, his back turned to Peter, looking up at a large holographic projection floating above it. Peter glanced up at it as he stepped closer. You wanted to see me? You stole my clock, Stark said without turning around. I have no idea what you mean. Stark impatiently waved his hand, and the hologram disappeared. He turned to Peter. Hand me your backpack. Peter resisted the urge to roll his eyes and took off his backpack, tossing it at Tony Stark for the second time in 2 days. Stark searched it to no avail. Where is it? Where did you hide it? He was getting worked up now. I told you, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. Friday, where is the Tellaro clock that was on the kitchen counter? It is on the kitchen counter, Friday reported. Getting a little blind? Peter gleefully suggested, immensely enjoying the baffled expression on Tony Stark's face. Did Peter steal that clock? Stark growled. Mr. Peter... Mr. Shut... Fuck. I'm stupid. Mr. Parker took that clock at 7:42 this morning and returned it at 14:58 this afternoon. Peter snapped his fingers. Oh, that clock. What the hell were you doing with it? Peter gave a mild shrug. I don't have a watch. I'm getting very tired of you very quickly, kid. Yeah, Peter replied, smirking. What are you gonna do? Throw me out? 'Cause I sure as hell am not here voluntarily. Stark huffed and turned his back on Peter again. A different hologram appeared in midair, and Peter recognized it as a sort of replica of his spider suit, just quite different. He took a few steps forward until he was standing next to Stark, his teacup down, and set his teacup down. What are you doing? Making you a suit. Making you a suit. Why? Can't be affiliated with the Avengers and run around in pajamas. My suit works just fine for me. That thing is an atrocity. The web fluid is interesting, though. I'll admit that. Who manufactured that? None of your business. Stark growled under his breath. I'm making you $1 million suit, you ungrateful brat. The least you can do is cooperate. I didn't ask for it, did I? Peter shot back. He cocked his head, taking in every detail of the hologram floating in front of him. He had to admit, it looked pretty cool. Probably would have told Stark as much if the man weren't being such an asshole. I'll try to finish it before dinner, Stark said. So I'd like you to take it for a spin this evening, see if everything works. Peter wanted to say something rude and snarky, but he also kind of wanted to know what it would be like to swing around in a Stark-made suit. All right, fine. When it was almost 7 o'clock, made his way down to the compound living area. He felt nervous about having dinner with the Avengers, but he had promised Rhodey to join them, and Rhodey had been kind of tolerable, so Peter wanted to humor him. Reaching the kitchen to find Fury waiting there did nothing to improve his nerves. Steve and Natasha were at the table, both looking a little tense. Bruce was cooking. "Parker, right on time," Fury said. "Police officer from NYPD is coming over tomorrow, and you can tell him everything you know about Milan Pokorny." Peter frowned, pausing at a safe distance away from Fury. "I thought my name wasn't going to show up in the records." Don't worry. Don't worry your pretty little head about it. We'll keep you in the clear. But NYPD could still use the information. We have suspicion that Perconi could have been a part of a larger drug ring they are trying to bust. The officer is coming over as a confidant of Shield. Confidant of Shield. He knows you live here. He knows the portraits are fake. You don't have to hide anything from him besides your red and blue alter ego." Peter gave an acquiescent shrug, deciding not to voice his thoughts, that he would decide whether or not he would hide anything from the NYPD. "We've sent out press releases to inform the public that Spider-Man has joined the Avengers," Fury continued, now turning to Steve. "Expect headlines later today." "How are we doing on the press conference tomorrow?" "Pepper has everything prepared," Steve said, his tones a little clipped. "And I read your notes. What about them?" "I just think it's funny you ask us to lie to the public about Spider-Man's age. Clearly you realize that most sane people wouldn't approve of S.H.I.E.L.D. recruiting a teenager." "I've had enough of your lecturing," Fury growled. "I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to keep you all out of the hands of the UN. I'm talking China or Russia calling the shots about where you should or shouldn't go. And this kid, he was a drug dealer. And I took him from a crummy apartment where he lived with a deaf old lady to this place. As far as I'm concerned, I did him a favor he didn't even deserve. Kathy's not death." Peter thought to say that, casually leaning his hip against the kitchen counter. "She sure as hell acted deaf when I was talking to her." "Oh yeah, she does that. Or sometimes she pretends she only speaks Hungarian." Fury narrowed his brows. Narrowed his eyes. Not his Fuck. Fury narrowed his eyes. "Don't get bent out of shape. You're lucky she didn't hit you over the head with a slipper." It was the strangest dinner Peter had ever had. With Rhodey and Pepper, with Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, Natasha Romanoff, Bruce Banner, and Sam Wilson. Wanda Maximoff was conspicuously absent, though. Vision passed through the kitchen to grab some dinner for both of them, then disappeared back upstairs. "Is Wanda depressed?" Peter asked. "Because of Lagos?" "Not your concern," Stark grumbled. "Pulling your horns, Tony," Natasha said. "He's just asking a question." To which the answer is probably yes. But do we know? None of us have a PhD in psychology. "I'm currently getting one in neurology, though," Bruce put in. "Right, let us know when you get your diploma, then we can scoop out her brain for you to dissect." Peter tuned out their banter. He tried to imagine how he would feel if something he did had caused innocent bystanders to die. And Fury had probably been a jerk to Wanda too, considering how cheesed off he was about the whole incident. Peter had suddenly had a stupid but tempting desire to say something really moronic at the press conference tomorrow. Something that would piss the pants off Fury. "Good evening, Peter. Congratulations on the update." Where would you like me to take you tonight? Hello, suit lady, Peter greeted as he sauntered across the rooftop of a high apartment building. I didn't have any plans. Just need to give the suit a test run, unless you have anything on your radar. Not detecting any criminal activity nearby, the AI reported. To test the suit, I suggest following a 12-step assessment program. Not following someone's dumb steps. Gotta loosen up a little, lady. Chillax. What's your name? You can refer to me as AI. That won't work for me. How's Kathy? Wait. No, wait, that's weird. How's Karen? You can call me Karen if you like. Awesome. Now, as Gandhi once said, let's get out there and kick some asses. Never mind. Stupid joke. I think your jokes are very funny, Karen assured him. Peter paused, then cocked his head. It was oddly nice. Did Stark program you to be so nice to me? It's kind of a weird thought. I am programmed to learn through human interaction. Right. So if I, swear a lot, you'll start swearing a lot too? That is a possible outcome. Interesting. Peter moved forward until he was at the edge of the building. So let's start from the beginning. We don't call them criminals, we call them evil assholes, okay? As you wish, Peter. Grinning, Peter fired off his web shooters and jumped, soaring down towards the streets below. The Avengers had no idea what they'd gotten themselves into. Okay, that was it for today. It was a little bit rough because I'm pretty new to this and struggling a lot. So sorry for all the cussing and mistakes and stuttering. But I'll see you next time, and goodbye.